let's talk about something pretty incredible, the journey your food takes to become actual usable energy. We're going to break down how that sandwich you had for lunch can literally fuel every single move you make. It might seem like those two things have absolutely nothing in common, right? But believe it or not, they are both powered by the exact same process happening inside living cells. It really all comes down to how cells make energy. And that process, it's called cellular respiration. And this isn't something that just happens once in a while. Nope, it's happening in trillions of your cells right now, constantly turning food into the fuel that keeps you, well, you. Okay, let's dive right in. To really get a handle on how this works, we're going to follow the adventure of one single molecule of glucose, a simple sugar from that sandwich, and watch how it gets transformed into pure energy. So this whole journey starts in the exact same way for pretty much every living thing on our planet. I'm talking from the tiniest little yeast cell all the way up to us. This first step, it's totally universal. So picture this. Our glucose molecule slips into the cell's cytoplasm. Then, bam, it gets split right down the middle. This creates two smaller molecules, and they're called pyruvate. Now, this initial split releases just a tiny little bit of energy, but we'll get back to that in a second. And this process has a really fitting name, glycolysis. It literally just means sugar splitting. You can think of it as the cover charge, the universal entry ticket that every cell has to pay to start making energy from food. Now, that little bit of energy I mentioned, the cell only walks away with a net profit of 2 ATP units. You can think of ATP as the energy currency of the cell. So 2 ATP. It's a start, but trust me, the real payday is still to come. All right, so what happens next is absolutely crucial. After glycolysis, our two pyruvate molecules come to a fork in the road, and the path they're about to take depends entirely on one single thing. And that one thing is oxygen. Yep, whether or not oxygen is around completely changes the cell's game plan from here on out. We're talking two completely different outcomes. So first, let's check out the path that's taken when oxygen is scarce. This is called the anaerobic path, which basically just means without air. When there's no oxygen, the cell has to go to its backup plan. In your muscles, when you're working out really hard, that pyruvate gets turned into lactic acid. Yep, that's the stuff that makes you feel the burn. But in yeast, that same pyruvate gets turned into alcohol and carbon dioxide. We call that fermentation, and it's how we get things like bread and beer. The best way to think about this anaerobic process is like a desperate sprint. It gives you a quick burst of energy without needing any oxygen, which is great in a pinch, but it's super inefficient. It doesn't actually make any more ATP beyond those first two, so it's really not something the cell can keep up for long. Okay, but what happens when your cells do have plenty of oxygen? Well, that's when things get really exciting. This is the aerobic path. With oxygen on the scene, those pyruvate molecules get an all-access pass to a special VIP section of the cell, the mitochondrion. And you probably remember this from biology class as the powerhouse of the cell, and for very, very good reason. Inside the mitochondria, the cell goes from a quick sprint to a full-on marathon. Through a whole series of complex reactions, including something called the Krebs cycle, that pyruvate is completely dismantled. The only things left over are carbon dioxide, which you just breathe out, and water. But the main event here, the absolutely massive amount of energy that gets unlocked. So let's put it all together and check out the final score. Just how much better is the path with oxygen? Well, the difference is pretty mind-blowing. I mean, the contrast is just stark, right? The anaerobic path is simple. It's a quick fix that happens out in the cytoplasm. But the aerobic path, it's way more complex, moving into the mitochondria to unleash a ton of energy. And this chart really drives the point home. The anaerobic path without oxygen gives you a grand total of just 2 ATP. But the aerobic path with oxygen, it churns out a staggering 38 ATP. And that's from the very same single molecule of glucose. So, the takeaway here is crystal clear. Oxygen is the key that unlocks about 19 times more energy from our food. And this isn't just some minor improvement. This was a total game changer for life on Earth. It's this incredible energy efficiency that allowed life to evolve from tiny single-celled things into the big, complex, and active creatures like us that you see today. And that really brings us full circle, back to our first question.
If the aerobic path is so much better, why even bother with the anaerobic one? Well, because sometimes, like when you're in an all-out sprint, your muscles need energy faster than your heart and lungs can deliver oxygen. It's an emergency backup generator that lets you push past your normal limits, and that muscle burn, well, that's just the price you pay.